And welcome back, everyone. Sorry for the interruption. We had some technical minor issues, but it's fixed right now. So, welcome, everyone, for this new episode of Coding Design System with Thomas Defossez.
Hello,
so,
everyone.
so, Thomas, I said that I'm really happy to be with you today and to have you on the stream to talk about email development and design system for email development. And we were at introducing yourself to our audience. So I'll let you introduce yourself.
Okay. So, after being a school teacher, I completely changed my career path by becoming an email developer for Cheetah Digital. Digital, it's a well-known email service provider platform. And then I worked as a designer and front and back-end developer in a web agency in the north of France. Before founding my own agency, which clients for email or websites. Then in 2017, I joined the Batsender team. So Batsender, it's first blog about emailing and email marketing and ECRM. And then it became an email agency, well known in France. So I joined Batsender team as the lead designer and email developer. Since then, I tried to introduce design system in email marketing and to bring innovation in email code.
Okay, great. It's a big change in your career path. Coming with school and children, and finally go to email development, which is really specific area of development, of web development.
Totally.
So, my first question is probably, what's your favorite challenge regarding the email development? Because it's a very specific niche in web development. So why email, and which are your most favorite challenges?
So why email? When I changed my job, I have to find a first job. So I work in Cheetah Digital, and this is when I discover email and email marketing. But it quickly became a passion for me. It's astonished, but yeah, email development and email design really interested me. So there is some challenges that I love in email development. So the first one is that I try to introduce innovation in email because it's very difficult to bring innovation in emailing because the support of HTML and CSS is quite limited depending on the email clients used by the recipients. So the biggest challenge too for an email developer is also to render the email as faithful as possible to the original design. This is the second challenge. And then the third challenge is that when I create email templates, I also would like to be able to use variables that will allow me to easily change the main colors of the email, the typography, the rounded corners, the width of the email. I would like to be able to industrialize my code, to factor it, to use variables, not to always rewrite the same thing in the same code. So I would like to have a template that I can reuse quite easily, keeping the same code structure, but changing only a few values that will allow to change completely the look of the email. So I'm dreaming of a tool, someone hear me, that will allow to make design changes on Figma, for example, and that will automatically update the HTML and CSS code.
Oh, what? I've got something for you. I've got something for you. Yeah, this is this is definitely the occasion to talk about design system, because this is exactly what design system are made for, which is finally just externalize any kind of your development of your component into variables, into design tokens, and using those tokens into your final markup to
Yeah,
generate something that is reusable, and so on. So yeah, the idea of having design change into Figma and then it cascade through the
yeah,
design system to the final implementation. There is tool to do that, and okay, if you folks, if you have a look at the YouTube channel of Backlight, we've got a demo with Yuren and Louis Chenet from Specify, and they
mhm,
are putting in place a workflow where you are using the Specify plugin into Figma. So the
yeah,
different variables are extracted from the Figma files into
okay,
different design tokens, design variables. They are pushed into a PR on the linked repository on GitHub. So you can
yeah,
accept the PR and GitHub coming from the Figma changes pushed
yeah,
by Specify into GitHub,
mhm,
and then from GitHub you can directly link your different changes into your repository, which could be the design system repository
yeah,
linked into Backlight. So in Backlight you can edit the design system for your email or whatever you want, and then regenerate the final code base using the component extracted from the design
yeah,
system, which is a which should to be pretty complex workflow, but in fact it's really smooth because it's all based on a single point, which is the GitHub repository, and everything is pushed to it through different kind of PR. So you can push every kind of changes from the tokens or from the design system, and then release it into a final package to reuse the component into the final use, like the application or the email and so on. So so yeah, the dream is just clothed like that to have something really working. This is really great.
it would be really great if it's possible. But do you have already tested for email?
For email, never. This is the first
Okay,
time I'm trying to cover the email part. So I'm totally blank
okay,
regarding the email development. This is definitely not my specialty.
yeah,
And but I'm really curious on how you can work on a design system for your emails, because this is the basics finally when you want to have something that you can reuse and so on. And this is my second question. Is there any fundamental differences between a traditional design system for a web application or a web page and something like that, and an email design system? Is there very things different?
no, I think there is no big changes between a design system and an email design system. In fact, an email design system should be a part or a brick of a design system. Um, at Sender, we see that brands try to include it in their design system, but they often suffer from the lack of technical skills. Because is email development is a very specific development. So we sometimes find email categories in design system that are not well informed or not well enough, um, because the email should, yeah, in fact, the email should really be a specific brick of the design system, because there must be consistency between the site and the email produced. Um, but this brick must integrate the constraints of emailing. For example, why we use pixels and not units, and not EM for units as for typography, for example. So yeah, it's really a part of the image design in general. Okay, so I have a look on the website of Backlight, and you have really great pie charts. This one.
Yeah, exactly.
System with these 5 parts about design tokens, component library, content design, design kits, and documentation. And in email, we have this kind of categories too, these 5 parts. But each of one have a specific reflection for email design and email design system. So, for example, an email design system is also based on a content design, but this one is generally defined by the brands and not necessarily specific to the email. Maybe the specificity of content design for email may lie in the writing of relevant subject line, or pre-header, which will trigger the opening of the email. So, for example, you can use really good emails to get ideas of subject line, or use platforms like sensitivesubjects.com to test your subject lines once truncated.
I don't know really good emails. What it is?
Really good emails. Yeah, it's a website with a lot of email designs. From famous brands.
Okay.
Like Nike, Apple, or something else, and yeah, it's a really good way to have a look on the trends on image design. So yeah, you can use it to have some ideas of design.
Kind of inspiration.
Okay. That's it.
Okay, very great.
And you have design tokens in email design too. You can find it with Figma plugins like Figma tokens, for example. It will be particularly useful to manage several different text weights to gather the size of a brand in one place, but also when preparing particular templates. For example, at Batsender, we work a lot for press, which sometimes communicates to subscribers to several magazines of the same group. So we have to prepare a single template that, with customization variables, will change color, typography, rounded corner, and so on. But the structure remains the same. Okay. So for this, design tokens are really a great tool and a useful tool.
Okay, so it's like building templates for your emails in a blank brand approach, a wide brand approach, and you just adapt regarding to the expected brand, the regular colors of the typography and so on, and the template should be able to adapt to the changes, I guess.
Yeah, that's it.
So effectively, the design tokens are the perfect tool to do so.
Yeah, and you can use it for the multiple typologies of email too, because it's not a question of brands or magazine. It's if you want to create transactional email or relational email or promotional email, you will maybe have some difference of design, maybe just little changes. But Figma tokens or design tokens are really useful for it.
Okay.
So when we look at the pie charts on Backlight, we also have a design kits, and that's the same thing for image design system. We generally prepare the design kits following the principle of atomic design, and I saw that you will have Brad Frost, the founder of atomic design in your future sessions. So it will be very useful to get inspired. So we start in image design with the smallest elements, so the atoms, which contains maybe text, colors, spacing, something else, or wording corners. From these atoms, we can create molecules. In email marketing, it will be, for example, call to action with some text, one color, one border, or maybe 100 corners too. And with these molecules, we create organism, and with this organism, we can create templates, and finally, we can create emails, and that's the difference with the design system. Because with the design system, we generally create pages, but in email, we don't create pages, we create just email. So at last, we can create the definitive email with the good content, the good colors, and so on.
Okay.
And there is the documentation part, so we can use it in image design system too. We can detail in documentation what we are allowed to do or not to do. We will also inform the constraints and technical limits imposed by the email clients, and this also justify our graphic choices in a way. So we agree with the article of the DeviantArts blog about why code to design is better than design to code, because in email we often make graphic choices according to technical and development constraints. I don't know if you had this. The parts, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the link after that.
Yeah. Okay. So the documentation is then filled in tools like Zero8, where we can correlate the elements of the design kit, the code, and the rules that go with it. So, for example, Decathlon or NG, which are two famous brands in France, use Zero8. We can also import elements from Figma, GitHub, or Storybook in Zero8, so it's very practical for us. But maybe we will see Backlight in Zero8 one day.
Yeah, to be honest, you probably have Zero8 in Backlight one day. No, yeah, the idea, something that is really, really powerful with Zero8 is exactly this ability to include different kind of components coming from Figma or GitHub or Storybooks and so on directly into your documentation. This is something I really trust in, which is the idea that your documentation should be a live documentation. So you can't write your documentation apart from the code, because this is just a matter of time. But at a moment, you will just diverge from the code and from the documentation, and you can't finally get them in sync again in the future. So we have to just decorate, let's say something like that, decorate our components with the documentation to explain the different parts, but having the document different components live into the documentation. And it is something that is definitely doable right now into Backlight, because when you are in Backlight, I can show you if you want.
Yeah.
When you are in Backlight, so this is Backlight, folks. So when you are in Backlight and when you have access to, let me choose an existing design token. I won't record one from scratch just for the demo, but if you access an existing, let's say we're gonna pick a starter kit, like, okay, let's take one in Vue.js, but you can use whatever you want. I've got a button component, and in my button, I've got a docs section. So every component has its very own documentation, inside the component. And I can write my documentation with any kind of format that I prefer. Here, it's a Markdown, but it's a Markdown with JavaScript in it. So I can directly put some instruction into JavaScript, like importing my button, or having some kind of preview stories in my button, so I can directly write a story into my documentation. And because this is a code block with a specific pattern, I can have the content directly rendered into my final documentation. So I've got my documentation live from my button, and I've got the different kind of explanations, and I've got access to my previews of my different stories and so on. So I can access to stories previews. I can access to embedding component directly into it. I can also have some kind of playgrounds or something to expose properties directly from my component. So this is directly into Backlight. Because it's live, you can share the link with other people, so you could really collaborate around it. And because this is just Markdown, you could also generate the static documentation based on that, because just a simple static site generator. And to be perfectly transparent, we are working on the tool directly to export it without having to re-implement your own static site generator. So it's on the roadmap. So yeah, the idea is to with Backlight, and as I stopped the promotional advice after that, but the idea with Backlight is to say, okay, when you work in a design system, it's really useful to have access to your component and everything that form your component. So not only the code, but also the tokens and the documentation and the stories and the tests and the designs and so on. So everything could be gathered at the same place, and you can have access to every part of your components in the same at the same time directly into the unified interface.
It's really great.
But I totally agree with you. 08 is a really powerful tool and really, really efficient. This is why companies like Decathlon or NG are using them. This is because this is just really great.
Yeah, maybe, but actually we have some limitation for me. I have some limitation in 08 because this is major difference with an image design system. It's the component library for developers,
Mhm.
because email is made of pure HTML and CSS. So you can't have variables like with SCSS. Also, the CSS of an email is not separated with a separate style sheets. We can't have the style in the heads tag in the top of the email.
Mhm.
So the CSS has to be applied in line to be sure to be supported by most opening of environments. Sorry. So it's very complicated to have dynamic components with variables that will automatically change the style of a component. The code must be definitive, tested, fixed, and it can change.
Mhm.
So if you want to have dynamic block or organism, you can use some platform like Parcel. This is a tool developed by Avi Goldman, a tool made for image developers, which allows you to set up variables or components. There are some solutions on the email marketing markets, but they are not free. The pricing is very
Very high.
uh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we can also use or get JSON data and apply it. But for me, I'm limited in my skills because this implies a generation of the rendering with a preprocessor.
Mhm.
To be honest, I don't have the technical skills to develop this kind of tool. I know it exists, and I'm curious to use it. But I'm just a developer for email, so I don't have technical skills to develop it for the moment.
Yeah, I see. And in fact, but we don't have to always jump into really new technologies. We can also just do the old good ones and work with those that we really know. And that's interesting. I have a few talks currently that I am giving in different kind of conferences dedicated to static site generations or something like that. And in all of them, I've got a slide saying, okay, your brother just understands three fundamental elements: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And that's all. And everything else that you are using, any kind of framework, any kind of advanced technologies, any kind of templating language or whatever, they all relies on those three very specific technologies. And that's all, because this is the only one that the brother can understand. So, yeah, sometimes, and I guess that, but as I said, I'm totally genuine in emails development. But uh, from what I understand is that developing for emails clients is barely developing with just those very small subset of elements, which are HTML and CSS.
Yeah.
Maybe not JavaScript. I guess
No,
so. No, not at
you
all.
can't use JavaScript.
Yeah. So how do you you've got your different kind of atoms and organisms and your templates for your emails, but can you generate the emails at the end? Is it some kind by using I don't know, some kind of templating language like Nunjucks or something like that to generate the final
No,
markup? Or
no. Actually, for the code for the development, I I have I used to comment my code and to dissociate each organism with comments,
Mhm.
and to say uh, it's the start of the organism, and it's the end of the organism, and the clients can use each block, one of these block, and remove the place of the block. And if the client asks for it, I can make several um, uh, files of several HTML files with the components in each in one file. So I can have an atom in one file. I can have an organism in one file, and if the client wants, he can use multiple files to make his own email.
Okay, just by
Okay. But I don't have a framework or something like this to compilate the entire organism and to create the entire HTML email.
okay. So how do you craft the different components for your email? Because as I understand, you're working on different parts that you finally assemble in
Yeah,
the final
yeah.
markup. So you start by crafting some components in isolation, I guess. So how do you craft them?
Uh, for the design, first I prepare my graphic components on Figma according to the atomic design principle. So I have my atoms in one page, then my molecules in another page, and so on. And I try to prepare my design system sometimes in separate folder, so I can call my library in each new project created. And this is probably the best way to keep things organized. And this is the advantage of Figma, is that you can also prepare other states on elements, like on call to action. The functionality will not necessarily be well supported in the HTML code or in email clients, but the rendering and the functionality is not working remains optimal. Okay. And for the code, that's what I say. I just create one template with all of the organism, and if the clients want to delete an organism, it can just remove the code from for this organism, and to keep just the organism that he wants. Okay.
Okay. Okay, I see. So I'm trying to figure out how we could organize that to like Backlight if we want to work on those different kind of components, but reuse them in different parts. I've got some kind of ideas available. Maybe if we get enough time, we could maybe start crafting something. We will see.
Okay.
Um, but as you said, I'm really curious about this one. But email clients are very specific because they are some kind of subset of the rendering engine of the browsers. They are not
Yeah,
really respectful of the modern web standards and modern features. I guess even even things really standard like web components are probably not available into email clients.
yeah,
I guess so. Is the design system a tool to help you working with those different limitations? Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah. You I'm agree with what you said. Email clients are not respectful of modern web standards and features. This is due to the different rendering engines they use. For example, Apple will use WebKit, while Outlook for Windows will use Word. So this is a big
oh,
gap between yeah, between
okay.
WebKit and Word. So you really have to take care of the opening environments of the recipients before starting your design, because you clearly can propose the same design or the same interaction between a B2B targets and a B2C targets,
Hmm.
because B2B targets who might mainly open their emails on Outlook, and B2C will rather open email on Apple Mails, for example. So yeah, a design system email or an email design system help to deal with it, because uh, it allows you to have several elements side by side. So, for example, the desired rendering of a component, for example, the graphic elements from Figma, then the rendering you obtain with the cleanest code possible. So a light code without worrying about the rendering on Outlook, and another rendering with the code for an optimal support, including Outlook. So this parallel will allow to communicate to all of the users of the email design system, to communicate the different fallback rendering, to anticipate them, and to explain at the same time the graphic choices. Sorry, or what is the acceptable degradation. I don't know if I can say that like this, but yeah, what will we have when a CSS code or an HTML tag will not be supported on Outlook, for example. And we can explain why such rendering, etc.
Mhm.
So yeah, email design system brings in assurance too, because components that will be filled in the design system is normally already tested. So it's normally necessary to test an email on email rendering platforms such as Email on Acid. I don't know if you know it,
Yeah,
but
I know it by name,
yeah,
and yeah, let me show it on screen as we're talking.
yeah,
Um,
it's an email rendering platform, because if you have to test the email rendering on each email clients, you have to have a lot of uh, email addresses, and
hmm,
you don't have time to 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 see what's done on La Poste or Gmail or Outlook or something else. So that's why email on acid is useful, because it, it allows you to have something like 70 screenshots of multiple resolutions, multiple email clients, multiple um, uh, web browser, and to have the email rendering of this email on these multiple versions,
mhm.
multiple parameters. I don't know. So yeah, it's a big yeah, I don't know how to say it, but we can win a lot of time
Yeah,
with kind of platform.
yeah, for
Uh,
sure. We had last week conversation with Gil Tayar. about testing components in the design system, and we insisted a lot on visual regressions testing with visual regressions tools,
Yeah.
and with tools like WebDriver, Selenium, or whatever you want. But we need to automate the way we are testing visually, just to be
Mhm.
sure that everything is properly implemented, because we are working with this very specific subset that is CSS, so that is visual language to
Mhm.
declare visual graphics elements, and we need to test those graphics too and the rendering of those graphics.
Yeah.
So yeah, emails on Acid is definitely the right tool to do so for emails. Okay.
Yeah, there is another one like Litmus, but
Oh
email
yeah.
analysis for Europe is the best tool, because we have some French or yeah, European email clients in email honesty. We
Mm,
don't have it in Litmus.
okay.
So yeah, this is why email design system is brings the insurance, because components are already tested, so we don't have to test it again and again.
Mhm.
Um, and it's saves times and consistency in the production of email. These are the advantages that we highlight in our white paper that we product on image design system at Batsender. When someone asks us to produce an email, yeah, maybe you want to show, yeah, this is on this website and this web page. When someone asks us to produce an email,
Mhm.
uh, production times are increasingly short. Maybe it's the same case for any project of in email in digital marketing.
Mm.
Uh, you have less and less time to create this project. So we have developed a tool at Batsender called Le Patron. So in English, it will be called the boss. Uh, it's an email builder. Yeah, you have it. It's an email builder that is directly linked to the established email design system. So when customers go through through email design, through email builder, they are directed and they cannot do anything, because if you give to our customer too many possibilities, maybe they will do anything and yeah, anything beautiful.
Mm.
So they will put some weight on the title with yeah, a size of typography in 72 pixels, but that's not that will not be yeah, it will not be it should not be allowed.
Yeah.
So we try to limit the possibility in email design, in email builder, in correspondence, yeah, in parallel with the email design system. So no need to ask the question of what colors to use, what typography, what text size, which button format. Everything is taken care of. Uh, so in addition, it helps to establish the brand images and the seriousness of the brand, the coherence. I don't know if I can say like this, but yeah, the coherence of the brands,
Mm.
because recipients will be much more receptive to emails that are coherent with each other. You know, if you have always the same kind of email from the same brands, you will be probably more. You will you will probably more open the email or read the email, because it's a kind of, yeah, of confiance.
Yeah, it's a known territory.
Yeah,
You are
yes,
used to it, and this is the same
totally.
brand. So
Yeah,
yeah, there's this trust in it. So
yeah.
it's a very tricky part of the marketing. You know, working on emails.
Yeah.
And because this is a way to reach your different audiences in the this is not like designing a website. You know, when you are designing a website, you are expecting people coming to your website. So people are here because they want to be here, rather than designing for emailing. This is much more a high level design conversation, but when you design for email, emails are get by our end users directly into their inbox, but they are not necessarily expected from the users. This is not the users that is saying, "Hey, I want this email." Maybe you subscribe to the newsletter, maybe you subscribe to something, but it's not something that you are going to. This is something that is pushed to you. So
Yeah.
you have to unlock this trust, this confidence into your brand, because
That's it.
this is just a matter of engagement.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah. Um, this is extremely interesting because okay, this is something that I often say, but I will repeat it again and again. But when to me the most important part of the design system is the ability to shift left the complexity. This is a concept that comes from the cybersecurity. When you work in cybersecurity, rather than trying to patch vulnerabilities when they come, it's probably more efficient to try to figure in advance what could occur and fix the issues before the vulnerability were being taken, exploited, and so on. So the idea by the shift left concept is that by doing things in advance, you are ensuring that you won't be too much vulnerable. And this
Mm.
is the same thing with design system. By shifting left the complexity into the components in the design system, you are ensuring, this is what you said, by testing the different components and so on. When this work is done in the design system, then when you work on just composing the email, everything should be just right in place, because everything has been tested and constrained in the use of the different kind of elements. And this is this just bring confidence into your final work, because
Mm.
everything um, has to be tested and verified and so on
Yeah.
into the design system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to have a look on an example of email design system, not really, maybe not really an email design system, but yeah, I think it's an email design system. Yeah. So if you want to have a look, Stack Overflow published a public email guidelines and email design system for the brands. So that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
And you can have some documentation about the use of CTA of images of yeah, something like spaces and so on. So and you can have a look on the multiple typologies of email. So you have some yeah, maybe 3 or 4 templates. So
Yeah, like
you
short
know,
transactional, long
yeah,
transactional, promotional, major enhancement, and so on.
and it's
Mm.
very interesting to see it because you have the same thing that's in 08 and the documentation maybe in Backlight. So what you can do, what you cannot do, and you have the multiple typology of emails. So everything is synced to to make sure that the user of the design system will always find an answer to his question.
Okay. And this is the guidelines that Stack Overflow is using for its very own email communication,
I
or
think so. I think so.
okay, this is really interesting, because this is
Yeah,
something that we see more and more in the design system field, like with tools like Polaris, which is a design system from Shopify, with a
yeah,
lot of content guidelines and the design.
Yeah.
This is a lot of work, and really comprehensive documentation. But this is the first time I saw one dedicated very specifically to emails.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's
yes,
that's
this is awesome.
do Shopify have an email design system rubric or category in
I don't think so.
okay.
I don't think so. I will ask Kalik because he worked a lot on it. So and because we communicate, I'm gonna ask him if there is a specific emails part in Polaris.
Okay.
But I'm not sure. This is really the first time I saw one dedicated to emails.
Yeah.
This is really great
Yeah.
and a lot of inspiration.
Yeah.
So that's really nice. Okay, that's great. Um, just before we're closing the session, because yeah, we still have 5 minutes, but um, what our conversation bring at the top of my mind right now is that maybe we could use tools like um, Nunjucks, because I'm a tool dev tool nerd, you know. And now one thing that I really love with Nunjucks is that this is just a templating language. So this is just syntactic sugar over HTML, but that's all. And what I do love with it is the ability to define subset of elements in macros, what they call
Yeah.
macros. So so in this very simple starter kit with Nunjucks in Backlight, I just made a simple button, and this button is just here a simple macro. And in this macro, I've got which is a kind of function, let's say something like that, and I could generate a button with few elements like adding an icon, adding some classes, and so on. And I can generate different kind of views like a regular one, an outlined one, an outlining or button with an icon, or an outlining with an icon, and so on. And um, because as you said, we are first to burn in the final rendering markup every part, even the CSS part and so on, with inline styles. um, Maybe it should be a good start to work on a design system. My idea is the next one. I'm gonna have a look at the Stack Overflow documentation and guide for the emails, taking from inspiration from that, and I will try to put that into dedicated email starter kit into Backlight using Nunjucks to generate few components, and let's see if I'm able to generate a final markup into Nunjucks, just to see if we can just
Yeah.
abstract some form and
Okay.
of use cases. Let's I won't do that right now because it will take more than 5 minutes, to be honest. I'm not that good at working with that. But maybe for the next episode, something like
Yeah.
this. If you're okay with that, maybe I could start to work on it and present it to you in the next episode, and we could comment the code and see what it is, how it works, and so on.
Totally.
Great. Awesome. We're running a bit out of time, and it was a real pleasure to have you on stage with me today,
Thank you.
because
Thank
it,
you, Mathias.
it was really insightful and really yeah, really interesting. Is there anything that you want to use? Oh, you gave me a link that I want to show this one, because I'm a big huge fan of can I use, because when you work and design, can I use is definitely mandatory, but you made me to discover that there is also
Yeah.
canIemail.com, which how does it work? Is it just I input some kind of
Yeah. You
of
just have to write a CSS property on a or an HTML tag, and it will give you the support of this property or HTML tag in the different email clients.
wow,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is
It's a
this is
really good
slick.
stuff.
Yeah, this is really useful.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, and it is targeting. It is the same database than email on acid, because I'm seeing some French providers like La Poste and
No, I
Orange.
don't think so. I don't think so. But this platform was made by Rémi Parmentier, which is an email developer,
Oh, for
well-known
sure.
in France. Yeah. So I think he just think about email clients in France, and he take this in Canada email.
Okay. Okay, this is why. This is really nice and a really useful tool too. So
Yeah, I can. I use it every day.
oh, for sure. I'm doing the same with can I use when I'm working on web pages and web apps. So yep. I really trust you. Yeah. I guess that's all for today. Is there anything that you want to add as a final word for this session? Or
No, thank you again, Matthias, for this live session. And I was really happy to talk about image design system, and I really appreciate it.
yeah, but it was a real pleasure to have you with me today. So thank you very much again. And
Okay,
I'm gonna work on this experimentation in Backlight, and gonna have
okay,
you on another episode for commenting it
no
and
problem.
describing it for
Okay,
sure. Thanks again. Thanks again a lot. We won't see you folks for the next 2 weeks, but as Thomas mentioned earlier in the stream, in 3 weeks, in the end of May, we're gonna have Wet Frost on stage with us. So it's gonna be legendary. Let's say that. So see you in that time. Take care of you, and see you next time. Bye bye, everyone.
bye.